Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of Adults After Dark. I am your host, Mimi, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I also like to thank everyone who has been keeping up with each and every episode each and every Friday night. Before we get started, if you hear some squeaking in the background, I do have my fan on and it is kind of squeaky, so I hope you don't hear it, but if you do, I do apologize. So we're going to recap on last week's episode, which was, are we responsible for our child's bad behavior? Now, me personally, I think it all depends on what that behavior is, and how old the child is, because I think when a child gets of a certain age, they know right from wrong. They know what they should and should not do out here in these so-called streets. They know that there are consequences as to things that they do out here. So with me, like I said, it all depends. Now, if it was a younger child who doesn't know any better, then yes, I do think that the parent is responsible. So tonight we are on episode number 9, and so tonight's episode is episode number 9, and we will be discussing, can you be lonely in a relationship? Meaning, if you have a significant other, a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, can you still be lonely in that relationship? And for me, I'm going to say yes. And I'm going to say yes because I am married. My husband and I have been together for 18 years, and we've been married for 10 years. And I do feel I do feel lonely 90% of the time. And it kind of started some years ago when I was taking care of my mother. My mother was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's. I believe she was about 50 or 55 years old, I want to say. She was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's, and the day that she got diagnosed, I moved her in the house with me. I moved her in with me, and so as time progressed, as her illness progressed, I stopped doing a lot of things. I stopped hanging out. I would just go to work and come home because I just felt like no one can take care of my mother the way that I can take care of her. Now, I used to work in a nursing facility. I worked in there for 2 years, and I didn't like the way that those residents were being treated. I actually called OIG on one of the CNAs. OIG is Office of Inspector General, on one of the CNAs that was abusing one of the residents. And I had always said that I would never put my mother in one of those nursing facilities for her to be abused the way that those residents and patients were being abused. So the day that she got diagnosed, I brought her home with me, packed up all her stuff, called my landlord, let him know, hey, this is what's going on. and I moved her in with me, and I have been taking care of her from the time I moved her in until the day that she died. So like I say, as her illness progressed, now let me go back. So before she got really sick, my daughter was still at home then. She hadn't moved out yet. And my husband and I, he wasn't my husband at the time, but we had just started dating. We would go out and go to the movies, go to concerts and things like that. So, sometimes I spend a night at his house, he'd spend a night at my house. We were able to do those things, but as my mother's illness progressed, then it just kind of gradually stopped, because like I said, I wasn't going to put her in a nursing facility and have her being mistreated by the people that work there. So I stopped pretty much. So I pretty much stopped going out. I would just go to work and come home. Like I said, as her illness progressed, I did have a caregiver that came into the home to be with her while we were at work, and she took care of her 8 hours, 5 days a week. And I wouldn't go out on the weekend or anything. I would just stay home and take care of her. So that's pretty much where it started. After my husband and I stopped going out, we stopped spending so much time together. I think it's just a number of things. We don't talk like we used to. We don't hang like we used to. We're not really in the same room like we used to be. We don't watch TV together. It's just a lot of things that we don't do together anymore. And he's in the house with me every day. We're in the house every day, all day. But he's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. I may go hang with my daughter, or but yeah. So after my mother passed, everything with us just kind of, I don't know, it just went away. I mean, I still love him. I'm sure he still loves me, but it's just that we don't do anything anymore. We don't talk anymore. We don't conversate. We don't do anything anymore, and I don't really have the friends like I had before my mother got sick, because I used to be in the streets all the time. Before I brought my mother in to take care of her, I was in the streets all the time, especially on the weekends and during the summer months. I was never home. And I don't know. So my friends, I don't have those friends anymore. So I don't really hang out like that. I don't really talk on the phone like that unless I'm talking to my daughter. I barely call my cousin. I mentioned her a couple times in these episodes, but yeah. So I'm a homebody. I kind of keep myself busy, keep myself occupied. Yeah. I may play some games. Like I told you guys before, I learned how to hand knit, or hand crochet, I should say. But I don't do anything. I don't have anything to talk about with my husband, because I don't do anything. We're in his house 24/7. I work from home now. I go into the office once a week, so I'm here like literally all the time. Going down to the streets is, I don't know, it's nothing out there anymore. Like I said, I used to go to the clubs. We used to go club hopping and bar hopping and go to the concerts, to the movies, to the comedy shows. Did all of that. And then, like I say, everything just stopped. So I'm in the house all the time. So therefore, I don't have a conversation with my husband because there's nothing to talk about because I'm always here. I go out and may go to the store. I go walk the dogs, take them to the park. Like I said, I go visit my daughter, and that's it. That's my life now. That's my life now. So, yeah. So, yeah. Can you be lonely and still be in a relationship? Now, I've looked at this article on a magazine called Verywell Mind. Relationships, spouses, and partners. What to do if you are married but lonely. And it has, let's start here. The table of contents, signs of loneliness, why married people feel lonely, effects, and what to do. So the first paragraph is, you don't have to be alone to feel lonely. While being in a committed relationship might seem like the solution to the feeling of loneliness, it is possible to be married but lonely. Loneliness is a subjective state of mind in which people desire more social contact but feel disconnected or isolated from the other people. It's more about how you feel about your connectedness to others. If you've ever felt lonely in a crowd, you can appreciate that being surrounded by other people isn't necessarily a cure for feeling of isolation. You might be spending time with your spouse, but this doesn't mean that you can't feel lonely even in their presence. These feelings can lead you to feel empty, unwanted, or misunderstood by your significant other. Now, I don't feel unwanted or misunderstood. I think I do feel empty. Like I said, because it's like I'm living with a stranger. There's no conversation. There's nothing. He's just here. I'm just here. And that's just it. He's out watching the game, hanging with his friends, watching the game, and I'm upstairs in the bedroom watching television. So yeah, like I said, I don't feel unwanted or misunderstood. I just feel like I'm alone. Like I'm not married. I don't have a spouse. I'm just here by myself. Okay, according to a 2018 survey by the AARP, being married but lonely is far from uncommon. Nearly 33% of married people over the age of 45 reportedly feeling lonely. This article discussed why people are sometimes married but lonely, as well as some steps you can take to combat feelings of loneliness in your marriage. Okay, so the first one is signs of being married but lonely. Living with another person isn't a cure for loneliness. It is your feeling of being connected to your spouse that keep you from feeling isolated and alone in your relationship. Some of the signs that you might be feeling lonely in your marriage include: you feel lonely even when you're together. It feels like there's a separation between you that you don't know how to fix. Number 2, you don't talk to each other. This is what I just said. We don't talk at all. We don't have a conversation. Hey, how you doing? I'm going to the store. You need anything? That's pretty much it. Excuse me. You don't talk to each other. Perhaps you feel like your spouse isn't interested in what you say, or maybe you just don't feel like telling them about the ins and out of your day. In either case, you're not communicating, and it's leading to feeling of isolation and disappointment. So that's what I'm saying. So at least when I was going to work every day, going into the office every day, I can come home and say, hey, we did this at work, or this happened at work, or now I'm home every day, 4 days out the week for work, and it's nothing to talk about because I sit at the computer all day. I'm on the phone, talking to clients or whatever, and then that's it. That's it. So there's nothing to talk about work. Okay, so number 3, you find reasons to avoid your spouse. This might involve staying at work late, finding things to stay busy away from your partner, or simply scrolling social media to avoid interacting with them. I just said that as well. I find something to do. I find something to keep myself busy. Number 3, you rarely or never have sex. Not only is your relationship lacking emotional intimacy, but you are also lacking physical intimacy. All these factors can contribute to the feeling of loneliness in your marriage. Sometimes this might only affect one person in the relationship, but in many cases, both partners may be left feeling isolated and cut off from their partner. Being alone versus being lonely. Remember that solitude isn't the same thing as loneliness. You can be alone but not lonely. You can also spend time with your spouse and feel isolated or emotionally abandoned. Having time to yourself can be good for your mental health, but it is important to know what you can do if you are feeling lonely. Now, I like being alone. I like the time to myself. I do like being in my girl cave, drinking my wine, doing whatever it is that I want to do. Being alone, that's my time. That's my me time. But when I come out and venture through the house, I'm still lonely. Okay, so this next one says, why are people married but lonely? Research suggests that loneliness has been on the rise in recent years. A 2018 survey conducted by the Pew Research Center found that people who were unhappy in their family life were more likely to report feeling lonely. There are many factors that can contribute to loneliness in your marriage. Work and family. One of the most common reasons why married couples feel as if they are drifting apart is due to pressure from work and family. When you are both struggling with busy schedules filled with caring for children, working, and juggling other responsibilities, you may feel like two ships passing in the night. Because you rarely have time together as a couple, you might find yourself feeling more and more that you are growing apart from your partner. Number 2, stressful events. Sometimes the challenges that couples face together can create rifts in a relationship. A stressful or traumatic event can put a strain on even the strongest of relationships, but it can feel even more difficult if it magnifies or exposes weakness in your marriage. Losing your job is something that can become more difficult if you feel like your spouse isn't being supportive or symptomatic. In these cases, you may find yourself feeling abandoned and lonely even after a stressful event is resolved. The next one says, unrealistic expectations. In some cases, your feeling of loneliness may have less to do with your spouse and more to do with other needs that aren't being met, or interpersonal relationships outside of your marriage, for example, might cause you to expect your spouse to meet all of your social needs because you are looking to your spouse to fulfill a need they cannot be reasonably expected to fill. It's little wonder that you end up feeling dissatisfied. Lack of vulnerability is the next one. Not being vulnerable with your partner can also lead to the feeling of isolation. This means that the person you are closest to doesn't know the personal, intimate details of your life. If you are not talking about your deeper emotions, including your dreams and fears, it's much more difficult to feel understood and connected to your spouse. The next one is social media comparisons. Making unrealistic comparisons to relationships you see portrayed on social media can also contribute in feeling of loneliness. One July 2017 study found that people who spend more time on social media sites are reported experiencing higher levels of loneliness. This increase in loneliness has likely been further worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic because many people's social circle became much more limited over the last 2 years. This has created a great deal of pressure for many married couples. It also says where people used to have other relationships to help fulfill some of their social needs, the pandemic often forced people to rely on their spouse to fulfill all of those roles. So when your partner simply can't meet all these demands, you might find yourself feeling like you don't have support you need. Loneliness in a marriage can be caused by a number of different things. Family, work, stress often play a role, but internal factors such as your own unrealistic expectations and fears or vulnerability can also make it hard to connect with your spouse. Effects of being married but lonely is the next segment. Loneliness is an emotionally painful experience. It's often one that many people don't talk about. Unfortunately, research also suggests that these feelings can have a negative impact on both your physical and emotional health. Some ways loneliness might affect you can include increase in alcohol or substance abuse, increased risk for depression, worsened immunity, poor overall well-being, greater risk of cardiovascular disease and stroke. Feelings of loneliness can also affect your well-being in other ways. When you are feeling lonely in your marriage, you might be less likely to engage in health promoting behaviors like exercising or eating healthy. It might also impact your sleep or cause feelings of stress and negative thinking that can also be detrimental to your health. So this next one says, what to do if you are married but lonely. If you are feeling a sense of loneliness or isolation in your marriage, there are steps you can take to feel more connected. Figuring out the possible cause of the problem, talking to your spouse, and spending more quality time together are a great place to start. Talk to your spouse. The first step is to talk to your partner about what you are feeling and see if they are experiencing the same thing. If you are both feeling lonely, then it's likely something you can work on together to reconnect and build a deeper sense of connection. If this sense of loneliness is one-sided, it might be more difficult to address. If your partner is being emotionally supportive but you still feel lonely, it might be something else within yourself that you need to work on. Avoid blaming. As you work on overcoming loneliness in relationship, it is important to avoid placing blame. This can cause your partner to feel attacked and become defensive. Instead of framing these conversations around what your spouse isn't doing, for example, you never ask me a question about my day. You can focus on talking about your own feelings and needs. Example, I've been feeling alone, and it would help me if you ask me about my experiences and feelings. Getting more quality time with your spouse is another important step. The demands of life, including family and work, can make it hard to focus on your relationship. Doing things like carving out time for a date night, Going to bed at the same time and talking about your day as just a few things that can help you feel more connected to your spouse. Limiting your time on social media use may be helpful. As a research suggested, heavy social media use may contribute to increased feelings of isolation and loneliness. It can also contribute to unrealistic expectations about your own relationship when you see filtered highlights of other people's lives and relationships. It may make you feel less positive about your own. Creating limits around your social media can also have other benefits, including more time to spend with your partner. If you found yourself scrolling through your news feed instead of talking to your partner, considering creating a time and space where you put your phone down and focus on each other instead. Next one says, get professional help. If loneliness is still causing a problem, you should consider talking to a therapist about why you are married but lonely. Do couples therapy can be highly effective and can address problems with trust, intimacy, empathy, and communication. A therapist can help you learn more about how to connect with each other, develop stronger communication skills, and work on any underlying issues that may be interfering with your marriage. So, here's a recap. If you are feeling lonely in your marriage, you can take steps to fix the problem. Talking to your spouse is an essential first step. Spending more time together can also help you feel more connected. Couples therapy can also be effective for improving different aspects of your relationship. It is important to remember that every marriage is different and every relationship will have a natural ebb and flow, which may include periods of feeling less connected. If you are feeling lonely in your marriage, it is important to figure out what might be causing it and take the steps to address the problem. Getting to the bottom of the issue now can help you work toward building a healthier relationship. So this is pretty much me, guys. Like I said, we don't have a conversation. I can't really tell him about my day at work. He knows how my day at work is because I'm home with him every day. I know how his day is because he's in the house every day. So there's no conversation there. Like I said, I don't really talk on the phone to many people unless it's my child. You know, I don't even talk to my brother that much anymore. So I don't know. Yeah, guys. So are you lonely? Are you with your spouse, your significant other, your mate, your partner, and are you still lonely? If you are, what did you do, or how did it become that way? Are you trying to resolve it, or what have you? Comment down below. Let us know. So this was a short segment tonight, guys. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is an adult audio conversation, so please do not listen to this in the presence of minors. Please put your earbuds in, your headphones, or send the child to another room and listen then. So like I said, comment down below if you are in a relationship or you're married and you are still lonely. How did it become that way? Have you been lonely for a long time? Or what have you? Let's talk about that. Let us know. So guys, that would be it for this evening. Thank you guys for tuning in to episode 9 of Adults After Dark. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.